Welcome to TMZ Live. Charles here.
I'm Alex Michaelson filling in for Harvey Levin. Good to be back with you.
Good to have you here. We promise you this is not an April Fool's joke what you're about to hear. It is an actual lawsuit filed by an attorney in federal court about Diddy and an alleged freak-off that went down in Miami in April 2015. So exactly 10 years ago. They say this was a party for Diddy's son, King Combs, but all the names involved here are huge.
Huge.
Talking Beyonce, Jay-Z, LeBron James. Now, and all of those people are just witnesses, according to this lawsuit.
And strangely enough, Gloria Estefan. The rhythm is going to get you, Gloria Estefan.
Yes.
And her husband, Emilio.
Yes. And now, again, all witnesses. Emilio is actually a defendant in this lawsuit, along with Diddy. But here is the story as told by a man named Joseph Manzaro in this lawsuit that we obtained this morning. He says that he showed up at this party, or woke up at this party, and didn't understand how he got there, that he's insinuating clearly that he'd been drugged, but woke up and at one point saw Gloria Estefan and Emilio Estefan, and Gloria is saying, hey, we need to get him medical help because he's too drugged up.
Get an ambulance, get him out of here.
And according to Manzaro, Emilio steps in and says, no, we're not doing that, and shoves Gloria out of the way, and then they take this guy through a tunnel from the Estefan's house to Diddy's home. Now, this is on Star Island in Miami. They do actually live near each other. So that part of it is, that's a fact that anybody can find.
Sure.
But what happened once he got into this party at Diddy's house is outrageous. And I know we're supposed to take every lawsuit seriously because we don't know, we weren't there. The Gloria Estefan part, that's just a start. How Beyonce gets involved. So listen to this. He says that at one point he's being walked around the party and he looks up and sees Beyonce. And she says, what's this? What's this all about? Why is this half-naked white man with a blank mask, another word for penis, mask, standing here in front of me?
Yeah, apparently they put on him a penis mask on his head. So he's wearing almost no clothes, according to his lawsuit, and a penis mask. And that was a jarring sight for people.
And LeBron James also saw him at one point and said, y'all better do something about that. It goes on. There's more. It is one hell of a story.
Yeah, look, this is one of the most shocking lawsuits I've read. If this had been the first Diddy lawsuit, our jaws would be on the floor. But there's a quality to it that sounds like almost a screenplay being written, because he says he was lapsing sort of in and out of consciousness, and he's hearing voices of celebrities throughout this lawsuit. There's obviously the mask that he says he was wearing and being degraded and humiliated. There's also a bit of a Mad Libs quality of the other defendants. There's people who have sued Diddy before. A woman named Audrey English is a defendant in this lawsuit. She's been a plaintiff in another lawsuit against Diddy. So it's hard to make heads or tails of this, if this is just so late in the game that it's someone who is very familiar with the people and the players in Diddy's life that they could put together a lawsuit,
or if it's something that happened, and the reason that you recognize the names is they are people
who are really in Diddy's circle.
Who were in Diddy's circle. It also mentions a guy named Brendan Paul, who you recall when the raids went down, was arrested by the authorities and charged as basically allegedly being a drug mule for Diddy. He is mentioned in this lawsuit as well and is actually one of the defendants. So
I will say one of the good things about a lawsuit like this is there's a lot of potential witnesses, and they'd have to all be on the same page and all lying about the same thing. It's harder to do than sort of lawsuits that are built around a private setting where it's he said, she said. This would, the guy says it happened at a party. So there would presumably be people who could verify it or say it didn't happen.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems. You're right. When you mention all those people, they may all have alibis.
Well, Jay-Z certainly seems to have one.
Yeah.
So Jay-Z has mentioned that he's there with Beyonce, but we know that Jay-Z was in New York
Yes.
The night that it was supposed to be. Now,
the night of King Combs of his birthday, which happens to be April 1st. Happy birthday.
Is it possible that he got on a private jet afterwards in New York and flew down there? Possible. But
yeah, I don't know. LeBron James, I don't know. Look, he was playing for the Cavaliers at that point.
Yeah.
Though I did look on the schedule from 2015. The Cavs were playing the Miami Heat. So on April 2nd, so maybe he would have been attending. Look, these are all allegations, very wild allegations laid out in this lawsuit. As Derek said, there are elements of it that sound like some of the other lawsuits, but we have not heard a response back from Diddy at this point.
Well, no, Diddy's attorneys said that it not credible at all. This complaint demonstrates the depraved lengths plaintiffs will travel to garner headlines in pursuit of a payday. No sane person reading this complaint could credit this story. It goes on to say basically that he's looking forward to his day in court when he's going to get to prove all this wrong, which is something that we hear over and over again for all of these lawsuits.
Because we've seen dozens of them. And remember, the federal case the criminal case is going to go first. That starts in May. And then after the outcome of that, then all of these lawsuits that we've been telling you about for months and months now, then Diddy will start dealing with all of those.
Presumably, though, if he was found not guilty in the federal case, that makes it harder for these other cases in terms of the jurors' minds, even if it legally is not supposed to.
Right.
Hi, I'm Tiffany from St. Louis, currently joining you from San Francisco. I think that there might be a few truths thrown in there somewhere to some of these allegations, but this one almost seems like a fan fiction, or like there are parts of it that just seem a little fabricated, like word salad, all the celebrities thrown in there, and usually it comes back that they weren't even anywhere near the area. It might be a strategy by his lawyers, but who knows?
Some of those quotes are hard to believe. But by the way, Gloria Estefan comes across great.
Yeah, she was trying to help him. She was trying to help him.
The best person in the whole thing. And by the way, we should remind people that if you want to learn more about Diddy's defense, there's this great TMZ documentary called The Downfall of Diddy, His Defense, available for free right now on Tubi. And also, you can find another great TMZ documentary about Wendy Williams and her fight for freedom.
And Wendy Williams, nice transition. Yeah. As a pro.
And promoting you at the same time.
Love it. Wendy Williams having a big day because some of her fans and a former co-worker showed up outside the assisted living facility where she is, as she has described it, being held prisoner on the 5th floor there. And this is a protest, a Free Wendy protest outside the building. And they wanted Wendy to see them, and they got it. Wendy came to the window, was waving to everyone.
How you doing?
You know, I'm sure she was probably saying, how you doing? Okay. And you can tell that she is really enthused by the turnout from her fans. And she really wants to get the Free Wendy movement rolling here as she tries to get out of the conservatorship or the guardianship. But one of the people who was in that crowd, Suzanne Bass, a name that fans of her show, Wendy's show, would remember. She is one of the producers of that show, and she told us why it was important for her to be there. She has been in touch with Wendy. This is what she had to say about the protest.
How long do you think it's before Wendy's actually free?
Oh, I have no clue. I hope sooner than later, because hashtag Free Wendy all day, every day.
And you're out here in the cold.
We're out in the cold, and we're here for our girl Wendy, and we're waiting for her to lift that shade off so I can wave to her. I have not seen her yet. I talk to her almost every day.
No way.
I talked to her this morning, and she's excited.
Is she in good spirits?
She's
excited?
In great spirits. Wendy's very, very excited to see everyone. She's excited to see the turnout, and I'm ready to see her so I can wave to her.
It's amazing when you think about how Wendy looked when she was talking with Harvey from that same window, and was so desperate and so sad and felt so lonely.
See her today,
and you see that, where she was crying out for help, and to see her today with the makeup on, with the hat, smiling, happy. She looks like a different person.
We know this from just in our communications with her. She has some hope now.
Yeah.
And you can see that it's making a big difference to her, and I'm sure having the fans down there is going to really boost her spirits.
Hi, Gloria, New Jersey, commenting on Wendy Williams. First of all, Wendy looks absolutely beautiful. And just to see the support that she's getting from the fans is everything. I myself wished I had been out there protesting along with them, just to be there supporting Wendy. I'm ready to see her get reintegrated with her family and just reintegrated to life and to just live. Because Wendy is a bigger life personality, and I'm ready to see her get back to life.
Yep, a lot of fans feel exactly that.
It seems like we're headed there.
I certainly hope so. That's it does look that way. You just never know until the case actually gets into court. So we'll see. All right, when we come back, the battle between the vice president and a Politico reporter, a very public battle that went down over deportation. We're going to be joined by the reporter who went toe-to-toe with Vice President Vance, and the case they're arguing about will absolutely shock you. How a man who's going to pick up his son from school ended up in an El Salvadoran prison when he actually was not supposed to be on that plane. And the Trump administration admits it. A lot of outrage over deportation, and we've heard this for months now. There have been people outraged about the Trump administration's approach to deportation. But now there's one particular case that has a lot of people saying, even people who have been very vocal supporters of President Trump, saying that maybe it's time to pump the brakes when you have mistakes like what happened to a Maryland man named Kilmar Garcia, who ended up right now is sitting in an El Salvadoran prison, a very notorious prison, with murderers, killers, and gang members, even though he is not himself a gang member. How in the world did this happen? Congressman Jamie Raskin was on the Hill this morning and asking that very same question of Republicans and Trump supporters who were there around him, and he wants answers.
Here's one person of many who wasn't a terrorist on that flight or a gangbanger. His name's Kilmer Garcia. He's a Marylander married to a U.S. citizen who has a 5-year-old son with autism. And he went to pick up his son, but he was picked up first by ICE. The Trump administration admitted that it had made a mistake. He was not actually a gangbanger. He was not a criminal. It was all a mistake. If there'd been due process, maybe that would have been determined, but there wasn't. But they put him on that plane in El Salvador. Well, all's well that ends well, right? No. The administration says there's nothing they can do about it now because he's no longer in U.S. custody.
Jamie Raskin is a lawyer who specializes in constitutional law. If you remember, he was the impeachment manager for the Donald Trump impeachment case, and strong words from him there. And what he pointed out is something that the Trump administration admitted to in court filings, which you almost never, ever, ever hear them say, right, which is they made a mistake. They admitted that it was a, quote, administrative error that led to this man heading to El Salvador that he wasn't supposed to. And now they're saying there's nothing we can do about it.
Sorry.
He's in El Salvadoran custody. Good luck.
It is really shocking. And it was the source of a big argument between a lot of people on social media last night. But in particular, the vice president, J.D. Vance, got into it with Politico's senior legal affairs reporter, Kyle Cheney. And there was a lot of attention to detail by one of those two people, not so much the vice president. Joining us right now to discuss this and what's going to happen with Mr. Garcia is Kyle Cheney. Welcome to TMZ Live, Kyle.
Good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So obviously, a lot of people were talking about this case last night on social media. You, as a senior legal affairs reporter, had some opinions about it, and then you end up in a back and forth with J.D. Vance. How did that happen? And were you
wasn't
shocked?
How I planned to start my morning, but look, I mean, this is actually a more complicated and nuanced case than I think it's been presented. Even then, Congressman Raskin presented it. This man was who came to the United States 6 years ago was actually found by an immigration judge to have a potential link to a foreign gang, to MS-13, and was at the time. But the same judge said, we can't deport him back to El Salvador because he's at risk of being persecuted there. And so as a result, he ended up staying in the United States for the past 6 years. And so the issue is complicated. And what JD Vance said is, why are people portraying this guy as totally innocent, totally in the clear, when he had this judge said he might be connected to a gang? But what JD Vance said was he was a convicted gang member. And what I said was, whoa, hold on. If you look at the filings themselves, which is what JD Vance recommended, they never said he was convicted of a crime. This man was not convicted of a crime. He was denied bond and when he first arrived to the country because of his potential ties to this gang. And that's an important distinction legally, because as Jamie Raskin noted, due process is where all this comes into play, and a conviction is a much stronger judgment than just sort of this initial determination.
Right. That was the key to what Jamie Raskin said, and I think it's the key in all of these cases. What everyone is throwing their hands up about is there actually due process for people who are taken in by ICE during these sweeps?
And the answer seems to be no, right?
Right.
Well, and that's the huge issue of the day. I mean, due process right now is what Donald Trump has done is he has a lot of immigration authorities, but he's invoked some new ones or some very little used ones. In fact, some that have only been used in
some very old
times
ones, very old ones.
Right, and use that to sort of sidestep some of the more complicated processes that often take time to deport people. And this man that we're talking about, Kilmar Garcia, was not deported under those wartime authorities, but swept up in the same batches of people who were deported all in airplanes on March 15th among that group. And the government did admit, we weren't supposed to send him back to El Salvador because of this 6-year-old ruling that he could be in danger there. That was our error. And I'm sorry we can't bring him back because he's not in U.S. custody anymore.
And also, I think it's just interesting to note, which isn't necessarily the heart of this case, but just the fact that it's happening, that a sitting vice president of the United States is on X responding to people in real time. You cannot imagine, and that may be a positive.
That shows how much the administration wants to defend their policy.
But I mean, there is no way that you could imagine Kamala Harris at night doing this, or Joe Biden or Mike Pence or some of the other vice presidents. But now we've got a millennial vice president who was very online, which is why Donald Trump Jr. liked him in the first place.
Right.
And now he's literally doing that as vice president with you.
As you said, that may be a positive thing. In fact, I think it is a positive thing. I think the more we can break out of the sort of totally scripted, formulaic version of Washington, the better. And in fact, the exchange we had, I think he acknowledged making an error originally, saying this guy was originally released under the Biden administration, and it was actually the first Trump administration. And JD Vance, corrected that and fixed it. And a lot of people piled on him for that. But in my view, I appreciate that. I'm glad he's reading what I'm putting out there, and if he wants to call it out, that's fine. And let's have a debate about the facts, or a discussion about the facts at least. And so I'm glad he's engaging, and I hope he continues to engage that way.
Do you think, Kyle, that this case is going to make the administration slow down in any way? I mean, I don't know if you saw that even Joe Rogan, a very vocal Trump supporter leading up to the election, said that pump the brakes, that they're going too fast, and he's horrified at what this means. If there isn't due process, how many more Kilmar Garcias are going to end up in foreign prison?
Honestly, the Joe Rogan barometer might be maybe the thing that gets the attention of the administration more than anything that happens in the courts. But even more than that, I do think some courts will look at this. They see the coverage. They can't ignore this. They're seeing the court filings and say, if we're deciding whether to order some sort of due process or to slow things down to make sure it's being done right, this is a data point that we could use in our decisions. And there are several courts considering these policies right now, and they're seeing this play out. And it's hard to imagine that some of them won't say we do have to pump the brakes in a legal sense.
Yeah, the Joe Rogan barometer and the Kyle Cheney barometer at the same time is quite a combo.
It's a 1-2 punch. Kyle, thank you so much for being with us. We'll be watching on X. We'll see if
thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate
there's any more spirited debate. Thanks, Kyle. It really is a terrifying thought that someone you end up in a prison in El Salvador, and you
think about his American citizen wife, you think about his child, and then where's daddy?
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. The State Department needs to do something at this point. If you're going to admit you made a mistake, now you have to do everything you can to try and rectify that.
Which has not always been the way the Trump administration operates.
No.
Yeah.
We are going to take a break. When we come back, Sydney Sweeney
Yep.
Kind of important.
Just as important.
Okay, not really, but we now know what's going on with her and Jonathan Davino, her fiance, or we should say former fiance. We will tell you exactly when things went kaput between them. This could be really sad news.
For one person.
Or it could be really good news for
millions of people.
I don't know about millions, but those who think they have a shot with Sydney Sweeney.
People who think they have a shot and people who have a shot are two different things.
Yes, very.
People who think they have a shot might be a much bigger number.
Vastly different categories, but she is officially available because we broke a story yesterday that she and Jonathan Davino, who had been her fiance, we told you they had postponed their wedding. There's a reason they postponed it. It's not a scheduling conflict. They are broken up and have been for quite some time.
Yeah, so we have learned that Sydney and Jonathan actually split in January. Now, if you remember, there was photos of them together on January 20th. So it must have happened maybe around this time or shortly after. And then, like you said, Charles, we started getting all the breadcrumbs of the aftermath of their split because, you know, we broke the story that their wedding was postponed, which we always thought was suspicious. And then later, you know, there was other things that happened. We had photos of him in LA without Sydney, and we knew that Sydney was staying at the Beverly Hills Hotel. They weren't seeing each other in LA. That was also suspicious. And then, of course, just recently, Sydney going to Glenn Powell's sister's wedding without a +1. And Jonathan was supposed to be the +1. So now we're learning Sydney is on the market, which you could totally tell she's in her single girl era. She's been doing all these girls trips. She was on a safari with some friends, and she's been hitting the town, going to hanging out with like Paris Hilton without any guy. So yeah, some lucky guys probably next on her list.
So Charlie, if you had to think of, I would make the argument she is the most eligible bachelorette in the country. Can you think of anybody even more so?
I can't think of another celebrity female that's, you know, got everything going on for her, but is also single. I mean, she's definitely on the list of like many people's crushes too. So good for her.
Niall Brennan, San Francisco Bay Area. I think it's unfortunate that Sydney's relationship couldn't make it, but who's surprised? Like, she's this young, beautiful, successful actress and producer who's, like you said, at the top of her game. And a lot of people desire her even more. I'm pretty sure, like, when she wins her Oscar, she'll probably shout him out.
What about Jonathan? Does anybody think about Jonathan?
Apparently not, because we haven't talked about him this entire segment.
All right. Well, here's to you, Jonathan.
Good luck, John.
Okay. Moving on now to Bill Murray sharing a story I did not know about Bruce Willis. And Bill was on Watch What Happens Live last night. And he was started to talk to Andy Cohen about a movie that he and Bill Murray did together. It came out in 2012. It's called Moonrise Kingdom. And clearly, Bill wanted to say some really kind things about Bruce Willis. And he shared a story about Bruce before he was ever famous. I guess you could say this is his first job in showbiz. But this is what Bill said, and you can hear in his voice, he's getting kind of choked up thinking about what Bruce Willis is going through.
Moonrise Kingdom was a really beautiful, lovely film, and I got to work with and have a wonderful time with Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
We should remember today, he just had a birthday.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis is a good guy, a good guy.
Yeah.
And he was a good friend and really always understood. Bruce Willis was a page at NBC.
Wow.
When I was on Saturday Night Live.
No way.
And I remember when I met him after he was already a successful guy, he said, "You and Gilda were nice to me." And I thought, okay. And that's, you know, I always thought, okay, I'm good with this guy. But he was a good guy.
Of course, we know Bruce Willis is dealing with aphasia and is losing his memory, and we've seen the tributes from his family members posting about their love for him, and that's top of mind for Bill Murray.
But it's a great story.
Yeah.
And it's that thing they always say, it's like, be kind to people. You never know. And Bill got that moment with Bruce Willis later in their career. That's great. All right, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, are minority actors getting too much blame and not enough credit in Hollywood when things go wrong, like Snow White kind of going very wrong? Is it too easy to just blame Rachel Ziegler? When we come back, we're going to be joined by DL Hughley. We're going to talk about a documentary that explores that in Hollywood. What is going on for minority actors? You know DL always got some very strong opinions. Welcome back to TMZ Live. John Boyega getting some headlines today over something he said about Star Wars. And he has said this before, but it is now being said in the context of a very interesting documentary that it's out. So what John said, he was talking about the backlash he got from Star Wars fans when he got that role. God, I don't know how many years ago it was, but there were just...
Yeah.
There were a lot of diehard Star Wars fans who just didn't like the fact that there was a black actor in a starring role in a Star Wars film, which they hadn't seen before. John said this for a new documentary that's on Apple TV. It's called #1 on the Call Sheet. And it is some fascinating stories from huge celebrities about their experience in Hollywood and trying to make it to the top, to trying to get to be #1 on the call sheet. And it also, it actually is pertinent to something that's happening right now with Rachel Ziegler and Snow White. There was, when they announced that she was going to be playing Snow White, there were a lot of people like, this doesn't make sense. Disney diehards were like, she's not, I hate to say this, white enough.
She's not, well, her name is Snow White, and she's known as the fairest of them all, and they picked a Latina.
And they picked a Latina, and people, that didn't sit well with them. So, I mean, can you win? Is there a win for, you fight so hard to get to the top, and then you get there, and you are immediately torn down. That's what they talk about in this documentary, and it's what we're going to be talking to a good friend, DL Hughley, about today. DL, welcome back to TMZ Live.
Baby.
You, of course, have had lots of experience in Hollywood on films, TV shows.
He's been the #1 guy on the call sheet?
Yeah.
Right.
So when you watch this documentary, it's got to really ring true to you with some of these stories.
But it doesn't exist in a vacuum. I would say that anybody who does anything, I don't care if you're an actor who plays, a black actor who plays in Star Wars, or the first black president, wherever black people encroach or feel like when America feels like black people have encroached into space they do not belong, there's upheaval. And that's across the board. Like they got mad the Little Mermaid was black, but if you throw that many slaves overboard, it's bound to be somebody black down there. I mean, like,
you can't make that joke, man. See, you can't make that joke, and then now we're gonna laugh about it. Now we're the ones who look bad, like we're laughing at your.
I think you can get away with that a little more than I can.
Well, that's true.
It's not even just. You know, and we can relegate it to a specific genre or a profession. Black people, America right now, and that used to be a fringe position where they didn't want. Look at people boycotting Target because they didn't want black people there. Look at people getting fired from their federal jobs because they don't want black people in those spaces. So this is indicative, and that used to be a fringe position. Now it is the mantra of a majority party in America. It's the way America feels, and has been moving toward this. And so I think that it's not just this industry. People get mad because they see black airplane pilots. People get mad because they see black people at work. People get mad because they see black elected officials. So it's indicative of where we are as a nation right now.
And it seems like it may be a little different with some well-established franchises where people are used to seeing white actors. It may be different when it's the DL Hughley show, which you create yourself.
Right.
So it doesn't feel like you're maybe in the wrong word, taking away something that was a white role. But the idea of Star Wars, which people see as white actors, or Snow White they see as white actors, maybe that's a different thing for some white
I don't know that it is. How is Boyega being treated any differently than Barack Obama did? When there are spaces that they feel are reserved for them, like Kendrick Lamar, like the only place they feel black people belong is spaces they're used to seeing them in. Like if they didn't have black people in football, it would be rugby, and they would complain. So ultimately, we are looking at a nation that only feels comfortable with black people in spaces they see as where they belong. If they don't. if they don't feel like that, and I don't care if it's an actor, I don't care if it's, like I said, we've in the last few months, you've heard people say, I don't feel comfortable with a black pilot or a black doctor or a black surgeon. So I don't know how, I remember Megyn Kelly said that Santa was white. Like, she got mad. And the only white dude in my neighborhood that dropped something off was Christian was a sheriff. So I don't know. But even in imaginary situations, white people want to control those spaces too, which is ironic to me.
So DL, talking about the documentary, which is really fascinating, number one on the call sheet. Are you saying that because they are in entertainment, it is somehow and although you hear all of these actors talking about the struggles they've had, but is it easier to be seen by America in those roles because it is entertainment? So is entertainment one of the places where we're okay for the most part, unless you're incredibly racist, with seeing black people have success?
Let's be clear. There are some, I remember Chris Tucker did a movie with Charlie Sheen called Money Talks, and they were very careful the way they marketed. Charlie Sheen had to be top of the ticket, or he had to be the dominant figure on the box, or they couldn't sell it in the South. That's just how it happens. So there are still, just because there's glitz and glamour and you get to be in front of a camera and you're in this make-believe scenario where people get, are paid to be and pretend to be something else, these same situations exist. America, in general, has a problem with black people or brown people or anybody other than them being in spaces they deem theirs. I don't care if it's look at the ranker that was raised.
But in general, it's interesting in the movie in what John Boyega was talking about, how a lot of folks were comfortable with Billy D. Williams being Lando as the friend.
Right.
As a supporting actor, we're cool with, as long as you're helping the white person succeed. Once John Boyega is the man, number one on the call sheet, that's where there's a problem.
But
yeah. Oh, well, that's a whole other thing. I didn't mean to step into that. Yeah.
You think Lando Calrissian try being a black vice president? See how that works. Yeah. Well, people are used again in all these iterations. I don't care what profession, wherever America deems. Like look at the dust up over Target and Walmart, where they just didn't want spaces that they felt uncomfortable with. And the medium of television and movies is a very intimate medium. That means you have to invite them into your home, into your space. And a lot of people do not feel comfortable with that. And that extrapolates out to the way that America in general wants black people in spaces that they feel comfortable seeing them. If you're a running back, that's great. But if you are the lead in the movie, that is a bit more problematic for a lot of people.
All right. Well, people should check out the documentary for sure. DL, love talking to you about
always, man.
Anything at all.
Thanks.
All right. We'll talk to you next time, man. All right. By the way, we just saw this with Captain America also. With the new Captain America movie. So it does keep coming up, and I think he's right. The country sort of reflects that Hollywood is in the country, even though some people think it's not. All right, we are going to take a break. When we come back, a big decision from the government about Luigi Mangioni's case. The federal case is now going to be a death penalty case, and wait until you hear how his attorney is reacting to that. Luigi Mangione could be put to death if he is convicted in the federal case against him, because this morning, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said they are going to seek the death penalty, and said that it's in line with President Trump's message about being tough on crime and cleaning up America. So that's why they're going to go for the death penalty. That did not sit well with Luigi's attorney, Karen Agnifilo, who had a very fiery response to that decision. She said, by seeking to murder Luigi Mangione, the Justice Department has moved from the dysfunctional to the barbaric. While claiming to protect against murder, the federal government moves to commit the premeditated state-sponsored murder of Luigi. By doing this, they are defending the broken, immoral, and murderous healthcare industry that continues to terrorize the American people.
Okay.
Boy, a couple things. First of all, Luigi Mangione lost the last presidential election perhaps more than anybody else did, because Trump is not going to back down from his demand for the death penalty in this case. It is consistent with the message he's been preaching. Second, I'm not sure that the right tactic here is to suggest that it is somehow a justifiable homicide. I think that argument was made early on and has been resoundingly sort of shut down by all quarters. And I don't know, at least in the court of public opinion, that's the best road to take.
Yeah.
Well, although we have seen some people in the court of public opinion that back Mangione clearly and that are fighting for him, which I think is personally disgusting. But you think about this, though, it's clear. It seems like she knows that she can't win this on the facts. I mean, we just literally looked at the video of it happening. And so she's trying to change the subject to something else to try to convince a few people, yeah, you may have just seen him commit a murder, but don't you hate the healthcare company? Don't you hate them?
The odd thing is, I think you're right, that Karen Agnifilo clearly is a very intelligent attorney, has seen what the public response has been and what the outrage over the healthcare system. So I get that if you want to appeal to that group, that's the court of public opinion. Is that going to work legally?
But that's who jurors.
Is that going to work legally when you? I mean, I guess you're right.
But jurors are part of the court of public opinion. I mean, think about the most famous case of the last few decades, O.J. Simpson. We hear from a lot of the jurors that it really was payback for Rodney King, and some of them even thought, yeah, he was probably guilty, but they let him off anyways. And so you could think that maybe that's the case. The thing that's different about this case with Luigi Mangione is that there are 3 different trials. There's Pennsylvania, there's New York, and there's the federal case. So to think that you're going to be able to pull that off 3 times in a row is hard to imagine.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Diamond in Dallas. Now listen, Luigi, is he guilty? Yes. Does he deserve the death penalty? Absolutely not. He has too much of a fan base to kill this man. There's so many people that deserve the death penalty, and it's not him. I would not want his blood on my hands. No, ma'am, Pam.
Well, I mean, this will also, of course, stir up a bigger debate just about the death penalty in general. Every time that, certainly when the federal government goes after the death penalty, you start having that conversation about whether.
And you think about President Biden basically took almost everybody off of death row federally, except for just a few people.
Yeah.
And so it's a very small number that are even left to potentially be executed.
Yeah, that debate is definitely incoming. All right, we are going to take a break. When we come back, Meghan Trainor opening up about who she has to thank for her body transformation. Did I say who? Maybe I should have said what. Well, cue up the debate about Ozempic, Mounjaro, all the weight loss drugs, or I should say diabetes medications that are now approved for weight loss.
That A1C.
Yeah. And Meghan Trainor is the one who is now acknowledging what some people were thinking, and she saw all of the online reactions when she showed up at the Billboard Women in Music event, and people noticed a dramatic change. And this is what she's now saying to all those people who are going back and forth about it. She said, "No, I don't look like I did 10 years ago. I've worked with a dietitian, made huge lifestyle changes, started exercising with a trainer, and yes, I used science and support. Shout out to Mounjaro. And I'm so glad I did because I feel great."
Which is the most important part, right? That she feels great.
Comes down to.
Not only does she look great, but she feels great, and she feels like it's frustrating that a woman in the industry, she shows up to that event, and so many of the questions she gets is about the way she looked.
She lost so much weight. Of course she's going to get questioned by it, because she was also all about body positivity before, and now she's doing a weight loss drug. So it's just like, what happened? Like, why are you doing this when you said that you were so happy before in your body? So it was just like shocking.
I've heard this argument that if you're like Lizzo or and you're about body positivity, or Meghan in this case, that you can't at some point decide that you want to make a change that's going to make you feel healthier. Like, I don't know what
feel healthier, be healthier.
Yeah, latch onto the fact that what you said is, I feel great.
You can do that, but it's just weird to go from being like such a diehard person about like, I love my body bigger, I'm all about this, like, don't shame me, and then and then you're like, oh, I want to be skinny again to feel great. It just feels like your previous statements were all a lie. And like, I get it, good for her if you feel great. She said she's doing it for her kids, and she's also working out now, and she's like eating better. So like, good for you, but
yeah, there's no but. That's it. Good for you.
No, there is a but because it's also like annoying because she has all the money in the world. So like, it's easy like when you're also a celebrity.
See, now I think you're hitting on it. Now this is what's really happening is that there are people who are. They call it cheating because for whatever reasons they're not getting the results that they want, and so when they see someone else getting results, they have to,
I feel like that was a personal attack, Charles, at me, and
no, it was not. I was just saying,
I don't know what the HR policies are here, but
it was not a personal attack.
Charles, like you were calling me a big girl.
Yeah, I don't want to get called to your HR office. I'm just the substitute guy.
What's that, Reagan? What are we going to do? Okay.
Hi, my name is Tanisha. I'm from Anchorage, Alaska, and I agree with you guys. Her body looks great. Now, here's the thing about body positivity. It goes up and down. It's fluid. So if she felt good at a heavier set, then that's good for her. If she feels better, thinner, even better.
And it is good to celebrate a healthy lifestyle.
Right.
And especially as a parent.
Rule number 1, don't look at the comments. Stop looking at the comments.
That's almost impossible.
Yeah, I know. What else do you guys want to talk about?
Hey, this is Ace from Charlotte, and I'll say this. It does not shock me about the alleged claims with, LeBron and all these people. But I tell you this, a certain GOAT did say there's no party like a Diddy party. So this could potentially end up real bad for whoever's involved.
He, of course, is referring to LeBron James, who said that years ago. Not Michael Jordan, who some people really say is the GOAT.
Hasn't aged well. All right, one more.
Hey, it's Toria in Detroit. And when it comes to Wendy Williams, I'm so excited that she is looking good and she has the support of a lot of friends and family that are there to let her know that they're by her side. So it's good to see Wendy doing good.
Everyone likes to see Wendy smiling. Yeah. More permanent situation soon.
And out of that room.
We are going to take a break, and when we come back,
Kevin Hart with an April Fool's prank with some help from NPR of all places. The tiny desk for this tiny
man. I'm not sure why people are calling this an April Fool's joke. I think Kevin Hart's going to be offended that people think it's an April Fool's joke, but he debuted today his Tiny Desk concert. You know, the NPR series where you have great artists in there performing? Well, Chocolate Dropper was there.
I'm here with the Band of Brothers. We're about to get down. Only time that they have somebody on Tiny Desk with no track. I'm here all off the dome. I'm off the dome. Small feet, big heart is what I got. The will to never start but stop. Yeah, now I'm coming and I got that bop. What you asking me for, bitch? You decide. I'm like, nope. I never got what I want to get. Now I'm gonna hit, but it's too legit. But I'm not gonna quit. I'm like a real and I'm about to spit.
Don't even, Alex, if you were about to say, yeah, he's not bad.
Sounds decent.
April Fools, big time. By the way, I saw Usher when he was here, and Kevin came out and did the same, like Chocolate Dropper. He had better lines than he did at NPR, just saying. We will see you tomorrow.
Thanks for watching.